called meeting of the Chattahoochee Hill Convention and Visitors Bureau. We will go with a roll call here. Let me see, I'll call out so we follow the screen because everybody's got a different screen. So what, Julianne?
Here.
Janice?
Here.
Or Joy? Okay. Joyce?
Here.
Carter?
Here.
Kara?
She's here.
Clarice?
Here, sorry, that was me,
Here.
Kara. Clarice.
I'm here.
Mike?
Here.
Does that cover all of the board members?
Brooke's out of country. That's the only one.
And then let the record show that Mayor Tom Reed and City Manager Robbie are attending the meeting via Zoom. All right, for the agenda, we have additional items that were not on the published agenda. And that is, it has been determined that we do need a secretary from the board, that Robbie as city staff cannot officially serve as our secretary. We also should be a 501c6 because we operate as a separate entity with funds from the city. And so we need to authorization to engage a lawyer to do that paperwork for us. We talked to Rick about that, but we're not sure what his fee will be. And if necessary, we can get a second bid so we know what that is if that's required. And then the third item is the Truth Workshop with Sun & Sons. And they have suggested, is it July 27th, Robbie?
Either 26th or 27th around 2 or 2:30 p.m. for the 2 days.
For the balance of the day. So we'll want to look at everyone's calendars to see if that. So I'll entertain a motion to add these 3 items to the agenda for today.
So moved.
Janice has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Julianne. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any
Aye.
opposition? Any opposition? Motion approved. All right, then everyone has received the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion to accept those?
Motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Let's see, the next action item is we'll need nominations for a secretary. To remind everyone, Mike is the vice chairman and Julianne is the treasurer. Do I have any volunteers?
Well,
Going
if nobody
once?
wants it, I'll take it.
Take it.
We can't get anyone else to do it. I'll do it.
I second Clarice.
Phew. Look at that look of relief on everyone else's face, Clarice. Thank you. All
I don't
all
even know
right.
what it means to be secretary, to be honest, but I'll take the position and figure it out.
Basically, you just nod to Robbie and agree. Is that right, Robbie? You do the work. You
All
have to
right,
sign
sounds
the
good.
papers though, but so you can,
Okay.
we
Okay.
won't make you take the minutes. All right, so who
Okay.
will officially nominate Clarice?
I'll
All of it.
nominate Clarice.
All right, I heard a couple people there. Who? I didn't catch
Julianne.
that. Okay, Julianne nominated. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Say nay. Motion carried. Congratulations and thank you.
Great.
All right, the second thing is simply authorization for Robbie and I to negotiate with a lawyer a fee to file the 501c6 paperwork. Unless there's somebody on this that's familiar with that and wants to do all the paperwork. Everyone agree that that is the next step, and if so, would someone make a motion to that effect?
Can I just ask a question? So how did that come about? Is just that's just something that we're supposed to do? We just kind of overlooked, or
Yes.
like I'm just
That is
Yeah.
correct. And
Okay.
you know, as various lawyers have been looking at several things now, we realized that, we just kind of, hey, we're a convention bureau, let's roll. But there's some
Yeah.
buttoning up that we actually need to do.
Got it. Okay. I think that makes sense for you and Robbie to move forward with that.
Yeah, and we'll keep everyone posted if it's something, it should be a nominal fee and it's not major, it will come out of the bureau budget.
Okay.
All right, let's see, where were we? Do we have a motion, a second, is that right?
Not yet.
Okay. We're looking for a motion still. I'm watching the screen. Janice is approaching.
Sorry, I keep muting and then unmuting and muting and I would move that we proceed to file the paperwork for the 501c6.
I second.
Joyce is seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right. Do you want to look at the dates then to determine which is the best date for everyone between, is it the 26th or the 27th, Robbie?
Yes, 26th or 27th is what I got from
And that's a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Madeline. Yeah.
Is there a preference on one of those days or the other from 2 o'clock on balance of the day?
I can do
Preference
either.
For me, for the 27th.
What was that?
I would say 27th would be mine.
Okay. Does everyone agree on the 27th is the best date?
I must
The
have missed
date
it.
for-
What
Sorry,
is
the
this?
best for what? I'm a little confused here.
Yeah, this is for the next session with Sons and Sons
Son and
in
Son.
what they call the truth phase. And so this is the truth workshop. So this is going through, and I guess, everything that they've assembled at this point and going through with us is what are the truths about if you think back about their proposal, this is that next phase.
Got it.
I will be out of town that week and not able to zoom in, but I don't have any issue with you guys diving into the truth phase, without me being here. Those are the dates that work for everyone.
And
We
is
can
this
also look at
basically
the
like
following.
I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
is this just like a 2 to 5 PM, Steve? Like what it was the timeline that they asked for?
I think that's right, Robbie. Is it 2 to 5?
Yes, that's what I read from the email.
Okay.
But now that we don't know location yet, they were talking about virtual. No, they wanted to be in person, but they weren't sure if you want to do it like in Serenbe or their offices in Atlanta. So you guys, it's a convenience factor for you guys.
I mean, I think it's always going to be easier to have it in Serenbe or in Chat Hills to a
Agree.
desk where the majority of the people are. But I'd also like to share too that I think it's critically important for every one of us to be a part of these meetings moving forward. And I know the challenges we face as we try to, schedule programs. Everyone's got such a crazy calendar. And so I know that I just wanted to make it for the record that I believe that it's really important that every single board member participate in these meetings. Because I feel like, Clarice tried to zoom in and then we lost the Zoom piece. And I feel like she missed a critical part of the introduction of what Sun and Sons is doing. And so I just wanted to make that known on this call that I think it's really critical for every one of us to participate in.
Yeah, and with that, I was going to ask if, how does the next week, it seems that Sons and Sons likes Wednesdays and Thursdays. They have some sort of conflict on Mondays when it works well for us. Is August 2nd and 3rd better?
It's for me.
It's for me, yeah.
Yes. I will have to be in Boston on the 2nd. So I wouldn't be able to be in person on that day.
Gosh, Clarice.
I know, I'm sorry.
So Clarice, would the 3rd work?
Are
you back?
Yeah, I think that could work if we do the afternoon. I think I can make it back that morning.
Is August 3rd good with everyone on the call?
Steve, this is Carter, not for me. We'll be on a family vacation on the 3rd. We fly out on the 3rd, so we won't be around.
All right, let's look at we'll just see. What about the 31st or the 1st? I don't know.
I'm good with 31st or 1st.
Is there anyone who is not good with?
I could probably do the 31st, but I will fly to Boston on the 1st.
All right, we'll get back with Sons and Sons to see if the 31st works. And if not, we'll do a new poll on August 8th. Does that sound good?
Okay.
That sounds good.
All right. For the next item on the business, I am going to turn the gavel over to Mike because I do have a conflict of interest.
Hey guys, sorry I keep going in and out of being on video, but I am kind of in a hotel room and I have 7 suppliers downstairs that I'm working through right now with meetings that I stepped out of. So I just wanted to kind of get everybody's opinion and thought. Steve, thanks for meeting on Saturday morning to kind of have this conversation and introduce us to all the documentation that your team put together. I tried to sift through it as best as I possibly could. And while I'm not a lawyer, I am a little bit outside of my purview on this. And so I wanted to be able to bring it up to the group to have a larger discussion because I believe that, being able to have to come to a vote pretty quickly on something that was, turned over through a holiday week was a real big challenge for us. And so I try to clearly identify what I think I understood in the documentation, but again, I don't know if it's accurate. And so that's what I wanted to have this conversation. And I wanted to make the recommendation of postponing the vote so that we could dive a lot deeper into these agreements and resolutions and make sure that we are really knowledgeable before we put together a vote. So having said that, I would like to open it up to the floor if we want to round table and go around the room to make sure everybody is clear on what the actual is.
Well, first, Mike, I'm prepared to run through this. So, I would like to run through so everyone understands it. And then I think would be the time that we'd want to do that. So I want to give everyone a clear understanding. both of what we're talking about and what is in the documents, plus why the timing.
Yeah, that would be
I
great
have-
if you could get.
Host disabled participant screen. Let's see.
You want me to help you with that?
Yeah, I'm
you
trying
should
to
be able to
share
share
my
screen.
screen. And it's not host disabled.
All right, hold on, let me see. I'll get it. All right, you'll be good now.
Am I good?
You're good.
All right. Let's see where that document go. All right. Now, let's see here. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I just want to share this timeline, but then I want to come back and explain it to you. So I'm just throwing this up here that this is a series of events that have evolved that require this immediate. And this was from Fulton County Development Authority, which I'll explain to you. Posted our meeting for July 25th. I think they only maybe have one meeting in the summer, and this is it with an agenda. That prompted a vote that they've requested from the city of Chat Hills, and that is going to be presented at the city council meeting Tuesday, and it was on the work session last Thursday. It has been suggested that the vote of the Convention and Visitors Bureau occur prior to that council meeting. So that's really the timeline, and we'll talk more about that at the end. What I'm sharing with you is part of the slides, which explains things with the Development Authority of Fulton County. And so this is a good framework to walk through. I'll give you the background of the project introduction, the details, the community impacts, incentives needed, and the timeline of the meetings and votes. So this is just a summary of where CHCVB is in trying to bring develop. When we broke ground in 2004, no one quite believed this could happen, and it was a struggle to get investments. Basically, this was from me personally leveraging my properties in Midtown. We have been able to move forward because many of our homeowners had a high net worth that they did not have to have the comparables that we needed in the early days. We're now established as a residential community, but to date, we've only been able to bring forward 8% of our planned mixed-use commercial. This is basically because of there are no comparables in South Fulton for this. We have been trying to bring a hotel and mixed use to the Selborne area since 2005. At that point, we had a hotel on the Selborne site, a little different than the current hotel. I sold Midtown property with the idea that I could get 70% financing, which I was used to doing back in the restaurant days. And we could not do that. In fact, we value engineered and we couldn't get any financing for a hotel project and mixed use in South Fulton. So I, at that point, took the funds and totally built the Hill building as you see it with the funds from I sold. And so there was no financing on that. I did that totally out of cash flow. I had the same problem with the one medical building in one Motto building in Motto. We had Mayo at that point. I had an initial memo of understanding, and they were taking the whole second floor. That's a whole nother story. I thought with that AAA tenant, we could get funding. We did not. I had to sell a half acre on Peachtree Street that I'd like to held on to. I would like to have leveraged it. We couldn't because South Bolton simply does not have the comparables needed. So we've been on a 15-year struggle to try to finance mixed use and commercial here. I might note that, you know, we're now approaching 20 years. We have done this purely out of our personal financing and financing with investors and borrowed money. There has never been a government incentive to this date to help bring Serenbe to where it is. We do have 3 projects, 4 projects actually, that we are trying to fund and have been trying to fund for the last 2 years as we brought those to the point that they're ready for funding. This shows you the master plan. It's the Selborne commercial area, which is a hotel and office building, the aging in place campus in Motto, and the Six Senses and Spa, which is on the edge of Motto. The Six Senses is a $200 million project. We actually had a letter of intent from a major investment sovereign fund out of Europe with offices in London and Spain. We still have that, but they have not given us a term sheet because they haven't funded the master fund. It's a huge international fund. Last July, we determined that we didn't want to wait, so we have value engineered this, and we believe we're forward to go through. That we have some investment and a bank loan to bring this one forward. This would be one of the highest rated hotels according to Travel and Leisure. 3 years ago, the Six Senses brand was purchased by AHG. They are working on projects in Napa, Fredericksville outside Austin, and the Hudson Valley and Serenbe. So this would be quite prestigious, not only for Serenbe, but Metro Atlanta and Georgia's to have this hotel. This gives you some of the dynamics of it. It's in 80 rooms with 28 villas. It's food and beverage in 3 restaurants, a large spa and fitness center, public function space, and a green roof, as you can see from that first slide that sort of showed what the thing looked like. The second project is the Selborne Commercial. That is a hotel as well as an office building. It's 109 rooms with a banquet space of 82,000 square feet, retail of 7,800, a banquet area, 8,000, will be able to seat 400 there, a hotel and bar, a fine dining restaurant, and then a 38,000 Class A office space. That's to give you an idea, one Motto is 2,300 square feet. So this is a major project at around 80 million. We have the funding lined up. We have loans lined up based on government incentives, which I will show you. We're hoping to break ground on this later this fall. We finished construction documents, and so this is shovel ready, if you will. The next is the Aging in Place campus in Motto. That is across from the One Motto building and the pool. This comprises a main built 3-story mixed-use building with retail, a restaurant, and a club on the street level, and 2 floors of apartments above with 41 apartments. Then there are 24 courtyard cottages and 24 freestanding cottages. You'll see that on the master plan. In addition, it's a medical office building, which is sort of a white shaded building. We are saving space. The sort of L-shaped across from the pool are not in the master development plan right now, but we're saving that. That is for a more assisted living type facility that we're not moving forward at this time, but keeping space on the campus for that as the need arrives. The goal here is to age in place no matter where you are at Serenbe, and that some of those facilities won't be needed because the practitioners can come into your home either on this campus or in Serenbe. And this is more details on that slide. This is the total of the 4 projects within the 3 locations. It's 350 million. With the 6 census, the furthest out opening in Q27, the Selborne commercial would actually open in Q25, provided we can break ground later this fall. And the senior housing will probably break ground in January, but it's a simpler construction. And we're hoping to have that actually open in Q4. That funding, and we're just in the construction documents, but we should be able to meet that, and that funding seems to be in place. This is the community impacts that we've shown for Fulton County, and it reestablishes the problems we have. I know the mayor's on, and he's been involved in the entire South Fulton development, and there's a lot of projects on the drawing boards, but very few can cross the finish line. And its funding, its preconceived ideas of what South Fulton is, and you know, and the lack of comparables is our biggest problem. Even money outside the South, they look at comparables for the area and they do not understand it. And while there's a lot of projects, other people are running into the same problem. This is the community impacts for South Fulton. If these projects all move forward. This is more about our master plan and what the catalyst it could be. You can see your Class A hotels, office buildings. They're most all north of I-20, or there's a scattering of them around the airport. This is going to continue to be a problem that daunts Chat Hills as we move forward until we can get some Class A comparables. With this in our funding groups, and this shows the job creation that's going to happen. With this, as we've gone out to our funding, and even in these difficult times, the Selborne commercial and the wellness we pretty well have the deals put together, provided the incentives that many of these lending institutions are used to. These are letters from the various banks that are moving these forward and have agreed to participate with us with a combination of investment and loan money. Here's an analysis for the 6 census as to why it works. If there are no incentives, it's not feasible. We can't move it forward. With the hotel motel tax alone, it doesn't work. With the hotel motel tax and property tax incentives, it does work. And so this gives you some idea. So with, I'll run through the 3, this exists for all 3. There we have the same thing with the aging in place campus. And let me back up. Well, I missed one. So there's the aging in place. Well, there we are. There's all 3. There is 6 census. There's a Selborne hotel and aging in place. So this is, as we went to the financial institutions, they're used to seeing incentives. And the Fulton County Development Authority, that's what they're for. I mean, you see the various things, and they've done a lot of projects, almost all south of I-20. They would very much like to participate. Now, we've been in discussions with them for several months to bring this forward. We invited the mayor to these meetings because, of course, they want the local government. And then they have turned and said, okay, if we do this, what's the local government going to do to participate as well? This is so important that Fulton County will give what they call tax incentives. So this would be the property tax abatement that would then directly go to pay off the debt. And this is why the financial institutions, this gives them a guaranteed repayment of debt. Because our city is small, it's hard to give up the property tax. But we looked at the hotel motel tax would be one thing that would work and make this work. And so this is why this has been packaged for the city to keep the property taxes, and I say that is on both hotels plus the office building plus the wellness community. And then the hotel tax would be given up for a period of time on just the two hotels. Now that, this all is great money, and it's concerned about what are we giving up, but the truth is these aren't going to move forward because without it's a cascading without the city doing their part. The county is not going to give us the incentives, most likely from the discussion. And without these incentives, we do not have financing to move these projects forward. So it's a cascading effect that goes through here. They've required some sort of a letter from an indication of the support from the city and a resolution or a agreement was presented at the work session on Thursday, and this will be for the city council vote coming up on Tuesday to make this happen. So this is what has suddenly, as when the development authority let us know that we were on the July 25th calendar. We've been working on this for some time. Suddenly, this put a lot of things in motion. Now they're working with Rick Lindsay, Chattahoochee Hills attorney, working with the Serenbe development attorneys, and working with the attorney for these various entities coming in. So this has been why things have not been, have not been in a position to present. There's various legal work and getting all these entities to agree on what needs to happen. The documents that you were sent out brings all this forward. Now, the moving from a 7% to an 8% tax really has nothing to do. That's just background to show how we're going to move from 7 to 8. This is allowed, but when we became a convention bureau, the city at that point was collecting 7, and we did not amend that with the state legislature. And so that's going to be before them here when they reconvene. Is that correct, Robbie?
Yes, I was shaking my head, but I was muted.
Yeah, so that is just a background on why 8% is talked, so that by the time these projects are real, it will be in the 8% category. Then this is a resolution for the Convention Bureau to support that portion. That's what 47 point, I have that in front of me now, percent that they would support the city dedicating that to this project. Now, the city can designate, they designate the various points. It's in 3 buckets. And they can determine a DMO to actually receive those funds and work out the agreement with the Serenbe Hotel developer. This is where we realized, we suggested that the Bureau actually be that entity that manages all the funds. And this is when we realized that we did not have the 501c6, which we should have anyhow to distribute any money. And so that just became that realization to set that up. And so that gives you kind of a summary. That's a lot, but that gives you kind of where it is. And now we can go back and look at any of the specific areas that you might have questions on.
Thanks, Steve, for the background. I appreciate it. I think the board absolutely appreciates it. Do we want to open it up to the floor now for conversations and questions? Because I think one of the things for me, and then I'll just let the floor open up, is that if I guess this is really talking about what the long-term implications are with this and other hotels and venues that are going to be popping up as Chattahoochee Hills continues to grow. If we're funded through the hotel motel tax and those dollars are being reinfused back into bonds or, bank coverage to build out the hotels, which I think all of us recognize that we needed yesterday. How is the CVB going to be funded? And what's not to stop other hotels that are going to be built in Chattahoochee Hills to do the same thing? And then how do we get funded? I'm super not clear on that. And I don't know who can answer that, or if we need to get someone to talk us through it, but I'm not really sure how all that works.
Well, let me see if I can help, and I can maybe pull up another chart. For instance, if we had had a financial institution willing to take us to this point back in 2005 and ask for any incentives back then, the period would have already sunsetted, and the city would be receiving those funds, and we would have those funds today. Until we get a comparable, every project that moves forward is going to have the problem. Now, the hope is that if these projects open and are successful, which I believe they will, there will be enough comparables that financial institutions will be willing to fund organizations, and they will not have to go back for government incentives. So this is the idea of this stimulates areas. If you look at the Fulton County Development Authority, it's to stimulate areas that will not happen without a government incentive. And so this terminates, and then there is funding in the future. Because it's done on the first projects doesn't mean that every project in the future this does not set precedent. There's enough history throughout Metro Atlanta where that's not the case. But if we don't start these, we might be here in 10 years still living off of the funds from the Inn at Serenbe and the Airbnb short-term rentals.
Steve, this is Carter. Are there specific municipalities in the area that have done this exact thing that you're proposing?
Yeah, it's various places. If you look at Avalon, when nothing was happening up in north, although north is very different than south. That's one that comes closer. There are there are some golf courses that have actually done it. I'm trying to think. There were a couple other small ones in the outlying areas that have done this in the same way. The Fulton County Development Authority, there's several things. And what happens is on all these other projects, offices, all kinds of things, they come back to the local government for a property tax abatement. So the hotel tax only comes into items that have hospitality in them. But you'll look, there's a complete list where the Fulton County Development Authority does this. But they would come and ask the city then for property taxes, and we could keep the hotel tax, but that's for projects. So there was projections, and I was we don't have the updated projections on what this is going to mean to the city in just the property taxes as they start kicking in 2005, 6, and 7. So it's a huge win for the city that those taxes won't be there if we do not get funded to move these forward.
Steve, can you run through the breakdown of math on this? Just because I was getting confused reading through it. So the hotel motel tax, like what exactly is going back to the development company? Is it a portion of that 8%? Is it like how does it all break down?
Yeah, and this is what the lawyers did not. So there'll be another meeting as we go through here. But it is proposed that this begins with the full 8%, the city's portion, as well as the Convention Bureau's portion. Now, there has to be an agreement that the DMO, when established, should be the Bureau, or is that, I think that makes sense rather than having another organization, actually negotiates with the development group to move these forward. So, ideally, the lawyers should have had, would have had that. That proposal has not been, but it is initially in the first year, it's a 100% of the 8%, and then it moves into a sunset, and then totally sunsets at the end of 10 to 15 years.
And
Probably
that's 100% of the increment created by the hotel, to be clear.
That's right, Tom. And there could be some language that if the project is successful and reaches a certain occupancy or financial, that the sunsetting would be a different scale, but the lawyers haven't worked all that yet out. But it does not affect the property taxes. From day one, the city receives property taxes on all the projects.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So the table that's in the document, what was it? What table is it? Schedule 2.3. Is there some breakdown I should be understanding from this 8%? Different from what you just mentioned? You just said that 100% of the 8% is what's recommended, stays with the property once the property's established and open. Is that correct?
I think what you're referring to is the breakdown of the 7 or 8%. Is that maybe what you're referring to? Yeah. And that's the standard breakdown that how the money is divided as it's collected. And let me pull that exact up here, and I can even share it.
Yeah, I can share that breakdown too if you need me to.
Okay,
That's the breakdown. The Georgia State has a required breakdown that limits what you can use certain pieces of the hotel motel tax for.
Okay.
And that's
right.
that chart.
Got it.
So the non-restricted is 37.5. That goes to the city to use in their general fund. Then the restricted is what comes to fund the Convention Bureau, and that's 43.75% of the 8 and or 7 or 8. And then the restricted is 18.75 that goes to the city but has to be used to promote tourism.
Okay. Got it.
And so at this point, the only thing this body has say over is the 43.75%. But it will be helpful if the position of the Convention Bureau is understood more formally as the city council moves into their vote for the full 8% on Tuesday.
Okay. And was this document drafted by the lawyer for the city? Tom, is this for, no?
This was an assembly of the city's lawyer, Sterenby's lawyer, and lawyer who's been hired for the projects. So it's 3 different teams that have, this is why it's kind of the final minute that to get these all to a document that actually be reviewed rather than just conceptually. As you see, when you even have the documents, it can be confusing. To do it conceptually would have been very, very confusing.
So this is Janice. If I understood what Tom said, we're not talking about the 8%, what comes to us in its entirety. Are we talking about just the portion that would be coming to us from these new developments?
That's correct. The city, this doesn't affect anything the city is currently getting. This is for these future 2 hotels that we're asking to vote on. It does not affect any of the current funding or
And
any
so
increases.
Sorry, so, and let's say other developments within Chattahoochee Hills, if their plans on building additional hotels, do they have the ability? I guess this is where I really need someone to walk me through it, like a legal entity to walk me through it, because I'm sharing that I feel like the math is very foggy and gray, and it doesn't feel black and white to me. And that's why I keep asking, because I want to understand fully before I make a vote. And that's what's not sense to me is that if other hotels that are going to be built in Chattahoochee Hills, do they have the same ability to do this and reroute those funds to those developers? And then those funds that should be coming to the CVB to promote tourism for the city, are we losing those funds? That is where I'm not clear.
Right. So if any development has their funding together with investments or a loan, and there is a gap that can be filled with government incentives, then that body has the right, as anybody, no matter whether you pass on this or not, has to go forward to ask either the city or Fulton County Development Authority. Now, the Development Authority is they do this all the time. Whether they would continue to ask for city participation, that depends on what that body decides at that time and how much of a stretch it is to fund in this area. The 2nd and 3rd hotel that comes in, maybe. The 5th and 6th, I doubt it, because there would be, if they're successful at all, there's going to be the need cannot be demonstrated. And if they're not successful, I doubt that additional properties would come forward.
Avalon is a good example there, guys. If you think about the way that North Point Mall was failing up in the Alpharetta area, and you had that dead zone across 400 from North Point Mall, Fulton County Development Authority made a very specific investment there to help turn that around, right? And Avalon's the result of that investment. We've got the same sort of issue here. We know we do, where because we're on the south side, people don't look at us as investable, I guess, as the north side. And so they're leaning into funding some projects down here to try to turn that narrative around. To Steve's point, once the point is proven and you're 20 projects in, they may not be as interested in helping, but right now they seem very interested in helping. It's why Fulton County has run sewer down in this direction to help incentivize kind of that change in the development pattern that we've been working on, as an example.
No,
So
I think
this-
it makes a lot of sense. Like I think the concept and makes sense. Very much supportive of how do we help continue to grow Chat Hills and bring hotels there and bring tourism. Obviously, we all care about that very much. So this makes a lot of sense. I guess I'm struggling a little bit because I do feel like I've never gone through a legal contract without sitting with a lawyer before and like talking through all the parts of it and having like a lawyer that's like objective and not part of Serenbe or part of the development company that Serenbe team owns, or like I feel like that's the only area where I feel it's not that I'm not trusting, it's just that I think that it's a good process to go through to make sure everyone feels comfortable around terms of something. Like, is 15 years make sense, or should that be 10, or should like just like the details of things, so that we're just making sure we're covering off on all angles. I just feel a little uncomfortable right now, I guess, because I haven't had that counsel and I've never looked at a legal contract without having a counsel kind of walking me through. But I get what we're trying to do here, and I think it makes a lot of sense. That I don't know that it makes sense to try to rush it this month. If there's an opportunity for us to have a little bit more time to review and to actually talk with maybe the city lawyer counsel and go through or get our own someone else to look at it, right, and get some more perspectives on this. I just feel so rushed around this. Is just my perspective at this time.
Please
Guys, if you
know
don't mind,
that
I'll take a second to make 2 quick comments, and then I'll drop back in the background where I belong in this meeting. One is this conversation in general terms has been going on for several months, right? This idea that, the city would be kicking in some of this incremental hotel motel tax, because that makes sense. It doesn't exist without the hotel anyway. And the fact that Fulton County is doing actually a bigger lift here. And they weren't specific about what the city needed to do, but they wanted to see the city was participating and supporting as well. So that's just a fact. And then the other thing is just the reality of this tiny little city with our one little contract city attorney. And we got this very late. It happened to be on a weekend where I was tied up in funeral stuff the whole weekend, and Rick Lindsay was out traveling and had about 30 minutes to review it before the council work session. And that is often the case in Chattahoochee Hills. We are threadbare, right? It's often the case that we're making decisions quickly, and I'm not pushing anybody to rush, but it's just often the case here. And this does feel like a pretty monumentous decision to be rushing into. And yet I also recognize that there's a timeline that's going on here. Fulton County is voting on something. It's on their agenda. I talked to Sarah Elizabeth, who's the executive director of the Fulton County Development Authority, just a little bit ago. And, she's like, look, you guys do what you need to do, but we do want to know that you're supportive. Yay. They're moving forward. So, I think, again, to the extent that there are bigger entities that have far more attorneys attached and all of that, looking at a project like this, they like this project and they're supportive, right? And we're doing the best we can in our little way. And I'm going to shut up and disappear.
Well, thanks, Tom. Now you are needed in this conversation because you've been there all along, and I might say, the Rick had to say grace over this before we moved it forward.
Yeah.
So he has reviewed it.
And I wish he could be here right now because he could maybe make people feel more comfortable, but he couldn't make this meeting, unfortunately. So hell, he'd make me feel more comfortable.
I think from my perspective, and I would like to go around and hear every person from the board because we haven't heard from some people on this call. And I know I have a really tight deadline. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm traveling and I'm with a whole team here. So my meeting is starting in 3 minutes. But I think we need to have I need more time to really understand this because I don't want to rush to a vote for something that's so significant that I didn't have enough time to review, understand, and see short and long-term ramifications to it. And that's how I feel. And I would like to roundtable to see how anybody else feels because maybe I'm the minority. I don't know. I could be completely wrong on this.
I'll jump in here too. Sorry, I had to like pop out in the middle of this conversation. So I missed a little bit of the bulk of the math and the distribution information. But I will say that I would have to agree with that. While the reasoning all sounds really good and the timeline makes sense, then I can say yes to all that. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. There are still some contextual questions and concerns that I have that I think would best be allayed by an attorney to walk me through a legal document. I don't want to be that person. I don't think anybody does. Everybody's here because they want to support Chat Hills. They support Serenbe. They support what they're doing. But I just want to make sure that we're going about it the right way with all the information that we need to know to make a sound and confident decision here. So that's just where I am.
Joyce, do you have any words, comments?
Yes. So I totally agree. We do want to support, but to know that we're making a decision that we don't know the long-term ramifications of. I just would prefer more time to look it over and better understand it before I direct our funds that will help us support tourism to just this one project.
Janice?
So what's the duration, like when we give up that portion of the 8%, for how long are we doing that?
What has been proposed is it does not totally sunset until the end of 15 years. 10 has been looked at, but it's 15. This is the piece the lawyers have not completed.
Gotcha.
But this is being rushed so that we hit the Fulton County summer schedule. Now that, we've been trying to get this vote for some time. That means, I'm not sure if they're meeting in August. This means it would be kicked to September. This means that it's about a 60 days. This means that to break ground on the hotel, it would probably kick it into the wet weather, which kicks it off until after the first of the year. So it's unfortunate that there's this tight timeline. This all is driven by the Fulton County Development Authority. We could, I'm sorry that Rick was not there. Most of the questions we can answer, except for having the lawyer on board to actually confirm that what we're saying, he has looked at and answer any specific questions.
Yeah. Well, I think you did an excellent job of breaking it down, and I certainly appreciate Tom's comments as well. But, I think we just feel a lot of pressure to make the right decision and not enough time to feel we've really perused these documents well.
And I do think the other end of it, like we're talking about 15 years, but if we were to go ahead and vote yes to all of this, we don't really know what we're voting yes to exactly. That's just a little concerning from my point.
Well, please know there's going to be another document that whoever the DMO is designated. Hopefully that is this group that the city designates, and there'll be a time to negotiate that.
Yeah.
So Tom, were you going to add something?
I'll say this, it's important when something like this, when a recommendation from a body like this comes to the council, that it is an emphatic resolution to the council, right? The council also got this very late. We didn't have the paperwork in time to put it in the packets, right? It was passed out in the meeting. So, they're also going to be feeling that pressure and that rush, and it's important that they get a thumbs up or not, right? If the idea is that this group is deferring it, then I'm going to ask the council to defer it as well, because either we're all on board and we're moving forward or not. The last thing I want is for the council to vote no on something that we just have some details to work out on, and then have it.
Right.
Council votes no, it's 6 months before we can look at it again. So
Yeah.
it's important that people are comfortable. The fact is, I often get resolutions from the council that give me signing authority or the ability to negotiate something to finality or whatever, where they feel comfortable that they know what's going on and that there are just details to be cleaned up. So that part isn't bothersome, really. The fact is that it is kind of, we've been talking from the beginning about something that's 10 to 15 years, but there are details to be worked out. Whether or not you guys are comfortable with that is really your call. But I want to get that call so that I can pass that along to the council in a way that doesn't cause a long-term problem with the project, right? Like, if we're going to work out the details, we're going to work out the details. We'll get the input from the CVB now or then, and move forward of an accord.
And if I'm understanding correctly, any developer could approach the CVB or whoever the designated organization is for these type of funds in the future.
Correct.
And then is it our responsibility and that authority rests with us to approve or disapprove that?
Well, no, again, it's a recommending body, right? So it would be the city council making that deal, but it would be you guys
Recommend.
Correct. And to the point, I think one of the other questions, I think this may have already been answered, but this does not affect revenues from other hotels. Other hotels or other projects could come in and work their own deals. Fulton County has different sorts of things they can do. Sometimes it's infrastructure spending, sometimes it's tax relief. Well, it depends on what the projects need, right?
Yeah.
Carter, do you have any comments?
Hey there, sorry, I've been going in and out. Laura's on a conference call with EPA stuff right now. Yeah, you could tell by the emails that went back and forth over the last couple of days that we were all kind of confused and felt rushed by what was going on. And it was, stuff that we couldn't absorb as fast as I guess, this is trying to go. I guess I'm asking is, is Rick Lindsay, our attorney, is he going to write any kind of legal interpretation of this or put something in writing that indicates that this is definitely a good use of this kind of fund? And in reading the documents, it seemed kind of nebulous as far as like how this affects other entities, that the benefit to other entities that come into the fray in Chattahoochee Hills. I'm concerned about the optics of the preferentiality to Serenbe with this community or such as that. We always have to be sensitive to our populace out here. So I just, is there going to be things that basically document the thought process by our legal entities and such, that this is something
we don't generally get that kind of a legal opinion from him. He would not, for example, speak to the financial benefits. That's not his skill set, right? His skill set is to make sure that the legal agreement covers the legal requirements for this thing to happen. And then the city council is the group that decides whether or not it's for the city's benefit. And he has signed off on the document, right? So just to be clear, he has reviewed the document and finds it legally acceptable for the task. His view then is, again, input from you guys to the council and what the council votes.
Tom, you said Avalon is an indication of maybe not a community. I'm not familiar with Avalon, but they've done this before. I mean, we've got case of first impression on other municipalities that have done the exact same thing that we're talking about here. That we could look at as well?
Avalon is one that worked with the Fulton County Development Authority on a similar project. They have a hotel and a mixed use, I mean, hell, it's a glorified mall really, but it's a mixed use project that is a very valuable development in North Fulton. And it's an example of one of the ways that Fulton County's Development Authority has done this kind of thing. Again, they've done other projects that involve infrastructure support and just a lot of different ways that they work this kind of stuff. But this would be the first project of this type that we know of on the south side anyway.
Okay. And I know you guys spoke, this is my last thing. You spoke, this has been talked about for the last couple months or 3 months, but to me, this is the first time I've heard about it. It'd been nice if we could have put it on the agenda or something, way back so we could slowly begin to digest this.
That I can't speak to. We've talked about it in city council and work sessions that this is something that we've been talking about. The actual documents came very late in the day for us as well. So that's just the reality of how these things work sometimes.
Do we
So
have an
that-
idea? Go ahead, Carter, sorry.
No, that was me. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry, Steve. No, do we have an idea of, I think where I'm trying to get my head around is and maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way, but the dollar amount that we're looking at across a 10 to 15 year period. Because if you say, I mean, are we talking about $1 million? Are we talking about $12 million or $80 million or what? I don't know what the costs this vote is going to implement. Like, I think that if I was able to put a number around this, that would help me greatly understand the impact of the decision we are being forced to make pretty quickly. And I don't know anybody who likes to make a decision this big quickly, who doesn't understand all of I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand paperwork. I did a lot of sifting and like, I communicated what I thought I communicated and what I understood. And, I just need to understand, like, over a 15-year period, we're talking about $100 million, $20 million, $10 million, 100,000. I don't know what that is. And I don't know if anybody else on the board, if that would be more comfortable to say, here's the roundabout estimates of what we believe is going to be driven back in over this 10 to 15-year period. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about, and it's almost math you could do in your head, right? 109 key hotel, whatever occupancy rates are going to be times whatever the hotel rack rate is times 8%. And that money only happens if the hotel gets built, right? So it's zero if a hotel doesn't get built, and it's 8% of the gross if it does, for that increment of time. It's a significant number.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the 3 to 4 million. I was looking at some of the projections, and then they've been redoing this. So it's, and it's an incentive. Now, as I say, that's giving up, it's not going to happen if this doesn't happen. So there's no give up. It just, the funds won't come today and they won't come tomorrow. We've been trying this.
If we were asking to get an extension and say, let us really all clearly understand this, what would be the extension timeline? Would that be a fall time frame, or would it be an end of summer time frame?
Well, it would probably, so, I'd like to, I'm sorry this has come short. I mean, this is, lawyers getting the paperwork together. This was working with the city, and the city could vote, and it doesn't have to include the Bureau, but I think that's the only way it should go. And as the mayor said, it's there to have everyone together. Now, this will all be dependent on when Fulton County would decide to put us on the agenda again. Chances are they're not meeting in August. That means September. Now, that has construction areas, but in these financial markets, the banks are getting more squirrely every month, and we've held this together for the last several months. I don't know what consequences or what world events in the financial area that would happen that, you know, this whole thing could go south with delays. It's all keyed up to move forward at this point.
And for what it's worth, when we defer in city council, we don't ever defer for more than a month. It's whatever the questions are, let's get them answered, right? Let's do whatever we need to do to get them answered. There's no benefit in stretching things out. You either figure it out and like it and vote yes, or you don't like it and vote no.
And if there were, you know, questions, or the lawyer, I don't know what Rick's schedule is between now and the city council meeting, or if there was a time, you know, I want to answer any questions. I want to make sure that that what the issues are, so we're clear on them, so we can get the answers to you. That just more time to think about it. Many times, everybody's busy schedule. We don't think about it again until the day before we're going to have to talk about it.
So when the mayor was speaking, he was saying that his lawyer this isn't his specialty, so he wouldn't be able to provide the numbers that we're looking for. So one of my questions was, who would be able to provide the documents and show us the cost and benefit of voting yes on this?
Well, so the cost is purely whatever the occupancy is. So that depends on how successful the hotel is. So this is why it's a little bit variable. Is it going to be a 60%, a 70%? Is it going to be 40? So this is where you do not know. The property tax, however, is a given because it's on the value of the property. And I believe that's, and now remember, with Fulton County Development, they're holding all projects based on local. So it's all 4 projects. And this is somewhere about $8 million in the next 10 years to the city. That the city either will get if these projects move forward or will not get. What the Convention Bureau gives up, I mean, you know, if it doesn't happen, they're not giving up anything.
Right.
If it does happen, then it is a matter of what funds are moved. But the important thing is that does sunset. So if the hotels happen, there is funding that comes in the future. If they don't happen, there's clearly no funding at any point where we are today, with the majority of the money coming from the inn at CHCVB and anything else that might happen.
I just have one other, I guess, a couple questions for you, Steve. So I think in general, I'm sitting here listening, thinking about this more, very much supportive of this. I think that what I don't understand is, like, what is the minimum requirement from the banks really for helping to support this funding for these projects, from their perspective in terms of timing, right? Because I've heard, we've talked about, like, is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? What is their minimum requirements? Like, what has to get done in order for this to really work from their perspective on that? And is there some level of gradation to how, for the first year it's the whole 100%, and then it becomes 90%, and then it becomes 80%? Like, is there a schedule that makes this work as well, so that we could just make sure that we're not basically funding something over, like doing over what is required to get the funding. Because I think the need is to get the funding. We want to support getting the funding because we want to support the growth of these businesses in the area. But I also do want us to be funding for, 15 years on something where we didn't have to be, and therefore, losing out on that money to support other things through through our, our team here. So that's kind of probably my biggest question.
And the optics that it just doesn't, we want this to feel good. We want this to feel like this is a core value that we're adding to the community. And quite frankly, I don't want to feel like the CVB is just existing to fund a hotel, even though I'm for the hotel being built. I'm for, the spa and the restaurant, and we all welcome that. But it does feel a little bit like the CVB is that vehicle. And I understand it having to be a vehicle right now. There's more questions around how it can be other things as well.
Which questions? What are those questions, Kara?
Oh, my question was just, do you know the baseline minimums from the bank on those other terms? Right. So my first question was, do you know, does it have to be 10? Does it have to be 15? Like, those are the details I feel like it would be helpful for just us getting this signed off after listening to everyone's questions coming in. Like, it's more around those details, because I think at least my concern and what I think I'm hearing from the rest of the group is like, it feels like we're giving, well, first of all, we need the hotels to get the money. So we want to support that. But it feels like we want to make sure we're making the right choice around timeline and like the schedule of like how this gets supported, because we don't want to just be necessarily overly providing years and years of benefit back to the hotel that aren't necessary for getting it done, because we want to be able to have those funds now to help support other things in the community. And I think through our convention bureau. So I think that's what we like. I think that's kind of what I'm hearing as the biggest question. So if there's more guidelines around what the bank really requires, is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? Like, does it have to be the 100% of 8%, or is it 50% after a few years? Like, I think those details, us just getting those clarified would really help this group.
So I've reshared some of the schedules from the bank. This is working out with the various funding institutions that are willing to move forward. Now, it would, what's not clear is, bank rates, nor the occupancy level of the hotel. Now, this is what I said, when it gets to the point of this next agreement that's worked out between the entity, the DMO, is this could be tied to financial thresholds that should the hotel reach certain volumes, that then the incentive would be reduced on a specific schedule. Those schedules are yet to be worked out. But if if we don't move forward, there's no need for all the lawyers to do that. But this all, there's not the hard figures, but there are thresholds and figures that the bank, and depends on where you lock in. But this is a chart from about 6 weeks ago that gives you some range, and these are all variables that are required to bring it within feasible and non-feasible. So you may, it would be helpful to have some sort of a general support to move to the city council, dependent upon the mayor and the city attorney working out the next agreements that would become before the DMO. Now, provided we get our 501c, that group could be the Convention Bureau group. Does that answer some of those questions?
I mean, I think what I'm hearing on the phone here is there a way that we can defer next month? We can collect all the questions from the individual board members. I can collectively put together one document that we need someone to be able to respond back to with all the questions in writing to give us a little bit more time to feel comfortable to make a decision of this stature. Is that a fair statement?
So let me ask, well, the mayor has already said, if we do not have a positive vote from this group, he is not going to, he's going to pull it from the city council. So that would stop that. If we do not have the city support, will be pulled from Fulton County.
Well, I don't think it's a black or white yes or no question. It's yes, we're supportive, need more information, make a decision.
But what I'm saying, it'd be helpful if there was some sort of whatever caveats are around it, that this could move forward to the city council, who could put caveats that is around it that can be presented to Fulton County.
So are you saying that we need to actually answer a vote today in order to say we want more information?
I'm saying you need to understand what this does to the timeline.
It's a lot of pressure. I mean, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I'll tell y'all, to get Serenity to where it is has been a lot of financial pressure. And I basically carried that on my back. This is the first time we've asked for any government incentive. The mayor has come along with this the entire time, the attorneys. So it depends, you know, on you know, who you want to nod heads or where we are. Yeah, I don't know, maybe a 2-month delay doesn't hurt it, and it might jeopardize the project. I've been trying to get this done for 15 years, and we finally have banks that are willing to meet us, and that's huge. And we have some funders. And if this were, if the economy weren't so iffy right now, I would not be nearly worried about 2 months. It would delay the construction schedule. You know, I hate that, we always do, but you know, those things happen. But I have no idea what the financial, I've been in this place before where things unravel very quickly. This has been a long time to get it to this place. And I would hate to think that this is the board that is actually could possibly unravel it.
Yeah, Steve, that's not a fair comment, I think. I mean, I really don't think that's
It's a reality
for us.
comment, Mike. It's a reality. I'm sorry this is at the last minute. This is where it came up. We haven't known for 6 months at what point this would be a reality, or even the details. As you can see, we don't even have the details ready. But Fulton County has put us on the agenda, and that means we have to roll up our sleeves and hustle.
Steve, is this the only opportunity we'll be able to go before Fulton County? It seems like this is our do or die thing. I mean, we don't have an option.
No. I said what this is it would delay. They're probably not meeting in August. This would be September. I'm saying it would be a 2 months. Now that does affect construction schedules. We got everybody. But what I have nervous about is where are the financial, you know, everything we have is based on this cascading group of incentives, government incentives happening. Are we, you know, this isn't a living document that is whenever I can get this in place. Fulton County's poised to vote on this, and from all the board members there, we understand it's favorable. I'm very sorry that through the time I didn't bring this before, it just felt we didn't have a document and everybody needed to see it. As you can see, it's very confusing as it is. And
Yeah, I guess, Steve, I just, you know, we've been aboard, I don't know how many months here, what, 3 or 4 months? I'm not sure how long it's been, and never have we brought this up, ever. Has this been come forward so we could even ponder this, right?
Correct.
It's the first we've ever heard of it. And I don't like it that, you know, we would unravel this, because that's not fair to us. I mean, we're citizens of this community, and you're putting us under the gun.
I'm giving you reality.
right now. you have-
I'm sorry. You know, the mayor has been there, various people have been.
So
well,
quick
I just-
question, Steve. So would this be, if we were to say, let's defer it, and the board is sharing their excitement about this, but needs more information to make a decision, and let's say we defer it for 30 days, because we're all in alignment that we want hotels built yesterday. I think there's no questions there around that. What I think the question is that, are you saying that if we were to defer it for 30 days or move it into August, is there, what I'm hearing, what I'm reading between the lines is that the banks may have not an opportunity to move forward with us. Is that what I'm hearing? Or is it really about the board?
That's correct. So the question would be to the mayor, what do you need before, from this group, that you feel comfortable presenting it to the council to vote on Tuesday night?
And honestly, I'm, you know, I only had 2 council people come to the work session. One of them, another person zoomed in. That person has a long list of questions. I'm doing a lot of work tomorrow to see where I am. I mean, I recognize fully 2 things. One is that a deferral is always better than a no. And 2 is that the mayor can go and say positive things about anything he wants to, regardless, if he thinks he's going to be able to get a yes vote. So, you know, I want everybody to be comfortable. It would be great to have some sort of a statement of support if you're not feeling ready to pass these along because you got them so late, and that may be the same issue I've got with my city council. At very least, that, you know, as we're deferring them for a month, we're very excited about these projects and are looking forward to helping with them or whatever. Is certainly not as bad as just nothing, right? I mean, I get it, and I don't want to put undue pressure on people. That has oftentimes the opposite effect that you're looking for. These projects are important. They're going to be pivotal for the city. If they come together. Support from the county and the city is important to making them come together. And it's hard to do things at the very last second sometimes. And I totally understand that. I respect that. So I
appreciate that information. Is there a way that we can help, like write an official letterhead with CVB documentation that's a letter that we can share with the banks with all of our signatures that says, yes, we're excited about this opportunity and we want to support it. However, we want to defer it to next month because we want more detail on X, Y, and Z. I mean, that's a fair statement. And we want to be able to help support Serenbe and Chattahoochee Hills and anybody else that's like trying to get our community up and running from a travel and leisure perspective. I don't think that there's any doubt there. It's just, you know, asking for the deferment and needing more detailed information to be able to allow all of us as board members, each one of us, I'm speaking for myself, to make an informed decision and feel really good about the decision that we make. That's what I'm trying to get to it when it's all said and done.
I can't imagine that there's anything we're going to learn where we would end up voting no. I mean, I'm feeling the same pressure everybody else is, and I have the utmost respect for everybody on this committee and trying to do their due diligence, but so we have to vote today so that can be submitted to the council tomorrow. Is that what everyone's saying?
The vote would represent a recommendation or of approval, I think, in an official way.
Correct.
But there's alternative ways to, but sounds like there's alternative ways to support that without taking an official vote. But I don't know if that would help us in getting a yes from the council, or it would be easier to defer.
My comfort level personally, and I think we go around and have everybody's comfort level, would be to defer till next month so we can get more questions answered and we feel more comfortable with answers that are going to be finalized by legal entities so that we understand we're making the right decision.
So Tom, is the city voting on its portion tomorrow?
It is up for city vote tomorrow. Whether we're voting on it or not will depend in great part on what I hear before the meeting.
Do you mean what you hear from us?
I mean, what is coming from you is certainly a part of the conversation, and it's a part of what the council is going to be considering, right? And then just also where the council is themselves. I defer things that are coming that are important that might get a no vote.
Yeah, I understand.
You don't get a no vote.
Does everyone have the document in front of them that was sent?
You mean the legal document, Steve?
Yeah. So on Schedule E, on paragraph H, it says the city proposes to provide separately for a destination marketing organization to be designated by the city in accordance with the HMT law, to expand all collections of the HMT other than those that are payable to the CVB pursuant to this agreement. Such destination marketing organization is sometimes referred to herein as the DMO. And then it comes back that on 4 of Article 2 is where it's the infrastructure, the purpose to where the CVB agrees to enter into a development agreement with the developer on terms and conditions to be negotiated by the CVB with its developer. So a lot of the questions that you have, if they're open, have not been clarified, and you still have the opportunity to there's additional agreements that have to be agreed to before the details of exact dollars and exact sign setting happens. These documents simply move this forward to the next stage.
You guys, I'm sorry. I have 12 people waiting and I have to get off the call right now. They've been waiting for 30 minutes.
Then, Mike, you would pass your gavel to Julianne as the next officer in line.
Yeah, so Julianne, I'm gonna have to pass the gavel, and I can't vote something. My vote is to defer till next month. I don't have enough information right now.
Yeah, I don't think we can be on this call another half hour to talk through the nuances of it and really get to a point where we all feel comfortable. And even though we want to, I think that's the case if we want to.
Is there a way that it can go before the council without us as a board recommending a yay or nay on it at all? Could it not go before them so they could actually review it
Yeah, who would
and
speak?
get their
to that?
opinion? This Carter.
No, you're good, Carter. I was just going to ask Tom, who would speak to that recommendation of moving forward before the council meeting? Who's doing that anyways? Or is that just something?
That would be Robbie in this case as
Okay.
your staff
Okay.
liaison or whatever.
Okay.
In the same way that Mike does for the planning commission, for example. Right?
Got it.
Because, I don't want to shortchange Steve or Serenby. Everybody knows we're a huge proponent of Serenby and what y'all have done and everything. So we don't want to squelch it, but at the same time, be nice to hear what the council thinks, and get their opinion back and forth. And if we have to sit down as a board with the city council to maybe move this along and get everything fleshed out face to face, I don't know.
Usually that's not how that works. Usually it is the groups getting whatever information they need to make their recommendations. We try to avoid combining those because you don't want people voting the way they think the council want. You want them doing their independent work and giving their recommendations, right? And again, at the end of the day, the council's making the decision, right? They're looking for input. And I want to be careful too when I say I don't put things that are important forward for a no vote if I think the no vote is coming because of a lack of information, right? People just aren't for it. They aren't for it. That's a different thing. But this issue feels to me like it's more just around the timing and the rush, right? To Steve's point, the final terms of this are going to be negotiated anyway. They're not negotiated yet anyway. This is a general concept of what's going to happen to incentivize these hotels that likely won't happen without the incentivization, and using funds that won't happen if they don't get built anyway. So
So to take the flip side of no, if we were, which I don't know that we're there, able to say, yes, we want city council to vote on this, you guys vote, say yes, Fulton County then votes and says yes, then we get to go back and negotiate the terms. Is that, we're just voting on the fact that yes, there can be these hotel motel funds used for development.
the details of the terms are still being negotiated, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
think-
think that's what confused a lot of us, and just as we've been talking and I've been continuing to read stuff in there, like, I think I personally am very much in, yes, like, we need this, we should do it. We want to promote tourism, and we want to support these businesses. I think the negotiation of the details is where we were getting hung up, or at least I was. And I appreciate that clarity, because I think that that's the most important piece, right? How long is this? What percentage? How does it all work out so that it's not, unnecessary investment on our side with funds in the future, that we could leverage in other ways, but doing the necessary investment to make it happen. So I don't know. I think I've kind of flipped a little bit during the conversation. I mean, if this is the general question, I support it. I think that the negotiation, the details, we should have legal representation, or counsel with us going through this. We should have adequate time for it. I wouldn't want to push that stuff fast. So it's kind of my last piece here, but I just don't know that we're there now, because we've already lost people falling off of the Zoom here. So it feels like we're going to need to push this regardless.
But if
I would
I, what Clarice is saying, and just to echo that, we're proposing in principle the idea of the tax that we normally would receive, that going to support the development projects, and then those terms to be negotiated. So if we don't reach what we think are acceptable terms, then we could still move forward, but we would still be working on the terms on the back end, correct?
Even more specific than that, you're talking about the increment of the tax on this hotel if it gets built, right? Being used in the way that you just said, yes, with terms to be negotiated still, yeah.
It's not any of the current funds that we're taking
No.
now. It's
No.
just, so if the hotel doesn't get built, I mean,
Then
A,
it's
we
a
can't,
moot point,
correct,
yeah.
and we can't promote tourism. It's kind of like that jump off the cliff to make this happen. So I get it. It's scary. I understand. But I think, just like Clarice said, the scary part is more the details, which is not what we're voting on right now.
Yeah, I agree. And then to go through all this agony and end up voting yes, when then if we've cost
can't do
Steve
it.
an opportunity to get the
Yep.
financing, then that's not good. So I don't know. I guess we either need to call a vote, or if we don't think we have the vote, call for deferment for 30 days.
I know Mike is off the call now, and I don't think he can vote today. He's not at a place where he can do that. And I probably would have to say the same. Fortunately.
Yeah, I just don't know that 30 minutes more on this phone call is going to get us anywhere.
And I guess too, we as a board will have to defend this decision, with our Chattahoochee Hill residents and to future folks who come into the community, want to develop and such. And so will the city council as we go forward. So it's just, like I said, it'd be nice to have that, not argument, but that background to be able to say, no, this was a good decision and this is going to benefit the city and everybody's on board with this.
Yeah, I think the second decision will probably be easier than this first one, but I think all of us support development. So I can't imagine that we wouldn't be receptive to any project that we felt would advance Chattahoochee Hills. So
That's right. That's why we're here.
yeah.
Yep, agreed.
Well, do we want to make a motion to defer? I don't think any of us want a no vote.
One other option, just to, and again, I don't know how helpful it'll be, but as I see it, there are three things that you guys have talked about today. One is to approve it, one is to defer it, and the other is to defer it with some sort of a show of support of the project. And if that's where people's heads are, that would be a better form of deferral if people felt that way.
Well, I certainly feel that way.
I think that's what, we are all here because we are for smart development and growing our city. And, we're excited about all the possibilities. We just want to make sure we're going through them the right way. So there is support there. We just need to dig into it a little bit more to be able to, as Carter stated, stand behind what we're putting our money towards.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's just more process. I think it's just having not done this before and then having all legal documents with everyone feeling the pressure of what they're signing and wanting to do the right thing. I think it's just the timing. I don't think it's the decision as much as it is that, for me, certainly.
A motion of support pending the final formulas worked out in the DMO simply moves the process forward without any commitment on exact funds or exact sunsets.
That sounds good to me. I don't know how everybody else feels, but certainly I want to be supportive. I mean, I think that's what we're here. That's our purpose here.
Can we structure to where it's a support of the theory of what you're speaking about, but would it necessarily have to be tailored to an entity?
I think for it to have benefit, it probably needs to be tailored to the specifics in front of us.
It would be this agreement, but with the caveat, depending on the DMO, basically just moves it forward. This is only language basically setting up the structure.
Clarice, how do you feel about that?
I feel like I don't think we'll get to a place where we don't support this as a group. I think that it's just been the details that, again, feel like the hardest thing to work through, and that we all want to know and understand, okay, what exactly does this look like, but we're not there yet. So I would agree with what Steve just said. Or at least personally support this on conditions that we arrive at the right spot through negotiation. And I think that's I guess I think that would feel okay. I don't want to hold up things or make this all fall apart because we couldn't all rally around the idea of, hey, we want to push forward progress and in support of travel and tourism, right? And that's why we're all here. And I think that's, this sounds like a method that's used in other places to help support when there hasn't been a lot of building and infrastructure and comparables and things for banks to look to get the financing approved. So it just feels like, I don't think we'll get to a place where we don't all support this. I just think it's the details we need to work out. So again, I support it in general, the general theory of doing this, and that we can put together, or that we can move forward with some level of recommendation around that. Charlie, pick that up. Sorry.
I was gonna say, how does
being
Charlie feel?
distracted as we've been talking the last 15 minutes, so I'm a little frazzled over here, but I just don't want to see this all fall apart because we can't, we won't have the money if these projects don't go forward. We keep talking about like, well, what money of ours is at on the sacrificial block, but really there's
None.
no money
Right.
for us if these things don't happen, right? So I think it's just we want to support them, and we want to do it in the most fiscally responsible way, right? We don't want to sign off on anything that is really beneficial above and beyond what's necessary, because that's, we're not trying to seed pockets of anybody. We're not trying to do anything that's not against what we stand for as a board. I think what we're just trying to get to is like, what exactly is necessary to get these things to come to life, and then what makes sense to support to the right level, and then let them go. And then we collect off of that, and we continue to be able to support kind of the mission of this board and the community.
Yeah.
So can we put that in the form of a motion? I'm trying to think of what those words would be.
Right.
Janice, you have a way with words.
Yeah, but usually they're words not out of my mouth, they're on my fingers.
I'm definitely not being eloquent today. Oh, I'm with my toddler running around me as well. So somebody else come up with those words. But I mean, I also want to make sure that everyone else feels comfortable about that, right? I don't want this I'm not trying to dictate my will on the rest of the group. And I certainly am feeling a little uncomfortable because Mike left the call. Yeah. And I think he's a really important stakeholder. So I really, I don't know what to do with that.
So can we be in support and defer for 30 days so that we have time to work through the negotiation of what those terms really are?
For clarity, the only thing, the terms aren't in this document. That is a future.
Yeah, we'll not have worked through those in the next 30 days.
In
probably.
30 days, all right.
And just for clarity, like,
No,
let's say we get to a place where we can't agree on terms, right? Then does it unravel it at some point? Like if we, I mean, okay,
Yes.
so like this isn't the first stop on the train. This is, or the last stop, I should say. This is the first stop. And there can be other stops, because if we're like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Like, we don't think that, what's being proposed in terms of the actual terms of the agreement makes sense for us, then we can stop it at that point. But we don't want to, I guess, shoot this down at the moment if we're still at at the very first stop of the train, right?
Yeah, and
as long as that makes sense to everyone, then I don't think that we're at risk here, because like that's still another decision point here, and it can again be one that will then unravel the deal at a later point without doing it prematurely.
Correct.
And whatever the motion is, just keep in the back of your mind, this is what I'm going to share with the council tomorrow night. So whatever that comes out to be, I'm going to present that to the council because they got to move forward as well based on your recommendation. So think of it in that terms, if that helps.
So
Well-
can we say something around, we have preliminary support for this? With basically, we're going to be reviewing this further and
I think we'd still be saying we're
pending
deferring,
negotiation.
days.
Yeah.
we're deferring for 30 days the vote. Because it sounds like we're not voting right now. But I think we can say we support the concept, that we just didn't get the documents until
I
today.
see, yeah, I see Kara's lips moving too, but I think she's muted.
Oh, yeah. Kara, you're
Oh.
muted.
God, sorry, I was muted. Thanks, Robbie. I was just saying, I think that it saying something like we support development in the city of Chattahoochee Hills. I don't know how specific we have to be about this being a CHCVB project, if it would benefit us or not, but from a 50,000 foot angle, we support development in the city of Chattahoochee Hills, smart development that will promote tourism and business. But we have, also we have questions that we would like to dig into before we cast an official vote.
Well, you gotta remember that, the agenda item is what it is. So it's,
It's for the
the agenda item, enter into a hotel motel tax IGA, intergovernmental agreement between the city of Chattahoochee Hills and the Chattahoochee Hills Convention and Visitors Bureau. So that's what you're doing. You're going to enter. So you can say a motion was made by so-and-so to support the agenda item. And then at the end of it, where it says, the CVB to support it, while further information is gathered or
Mhm.
something like that.
Defer the vote, yeah.
Yeah,
I think we'd
I'm
all
fine
be,
with that.
yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Barbie, do you want to help them by stating that in the form of a motion? I'm not going to do that here.
Yeah, I don't want you to.
appropriate for me to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would do, a motion was made by whoever it is to support the IGA between Chattahoochee Hills and the CVB, with the condition that further information is gathered before an official vote will be made, something to that effect.
Mhm.
That way you're not committing to a vote, but you're committing to support.
You want to
Mhm.
limit that, you want to set a time frame, that further information will be gathered in the next 30 days prior to a vote in 30 days?
Yes. Yes, I'll make sure I wasn't muted.
Carter, how do you feel about that?
I'm generally in favor of it. As long as they know, the city council knows, we definitely want to collect more information. We're kind of putting conditions on this thing, and we definitely, I think, overall kind of agree with where we're going. We just need, like I said, we're all kind of sitting back on our heels right now, trying to play
Yeah.
catch up. So that's
Yeah.
just,
Robbie, the details are all in the DMO. Now, I'd hope the lawyers could get that done in 30 days, but I think you're better tying the details to the DMO than to a timeline, because
Yeah.
we wanted to have it ready for today. And
There would also, though, it's perfectly appropriate if the group got the information that they wanted to get between now and the next meeting they had, and they said that, we approve of this and we have some recommendations for that final contract or whatever, that would be perfectly appropriate.
yeah, this doesn't tie the board into any details as such, just the concept.
we often get recommendations for conditions of zoning from the planning commission, as an example, right?
All the time, all the time.
So I'm
Okay.
comfortable. Yeah.
We're 2 hours deep, guys.
Who made that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is that Janice?
Yep.
Okay.
And would you please send it to me in writing?
Yes, and I want to send it to all of you in writing because I want to make sure I get it right because I want to, I mean,
But we're in support of the project. We have some additional inquiries
yeah,
to be resolved through the DMO conversation.
So again, read that to them, Robbie, so that they can
right.
call for a vote on it.
That's what I'm kind of like my prepositional phrases here at the end is with the condition that further information is gathered and resolved through the DMO prior to, that's where I'm stopped, prior to
A final vote.
a final vote. Okay. To a final vote. I can say that.
Or just based on the agreements of the DMO,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Okay, I
then
can
this
say-
is all void if that agreement doesn't happen.
Okay, so it'd be with the condition that further information is gathered to resolve or gathered based on the agreement with the DMO prior to a final vote.
And I don't want to confuse it, but the DMO is a separate agreement that this body's going to have to vote on.
They are. And that being said, the DMO is a designated marketing organization, which, like you said earlier, could be, the CVB. So that's, to me, it's almost like it's the same pot of money. They're just, instead of going to the CVB, it's going to the DMO, which is primarily designed to market these hotels so they would be successful. That's my understanding.
Right.
That's what the Fulton County Development Authority, that's the reason why this agreement is in place. They're not reducing any debt service or anything like that. They're not saying, hey, we're going to do any kind of abatement for you guys or abatement for anybody. They're just saying that we want this money to be specifically designated for marketing, which is kind of interesting to me because that's what the CVB does anyway. So it seems to me as an exercise in futility because that's what you guys do. It's almost like creating another layer to make sure that they have the assurances that you're going to follow through with it. So I get that legal end of it. I get that they want to make sure that there is a DMO that supports and promotes it, but they're going to be successful. We know that. I say I know that.
So read me the motion again.
Sorry, I was muted. I have a motion was made by Janice Barton to support the agenda item to enter into a hotel motel tax intergovernmental agreement between the city of Chattahoochee Hills and the Chattahoochee Hills Convention and Visitors Bureau with this is the important part, with the condition that further information is gathered based on the agreement with the DMO prior to a final vote. And I can reword. It's a little funky with the based on agreement with the DMO. It could be pending the agreement with the DMO.
No, because that
No.
you don't want to wait for it to be finalized. You just,
Oh, okay.
So Tom, do you feel that provides some measure of support that would be helpful tomorrow?
that's exactly what it does. Some measure of support that will be helpful tomorrow. I don't know if it's enough, but I don't know that I don't know. Again, I'm not sure where the whole council is with this yet anyway, so.
But
I appreciate this. It's definitely helpful.
And then I think at the same time, if we were to call a vote, I'm not sure we would have the support that this needs to move forward. So I think that's what we don't want to do, is get a no.
That's right.
So is there a second to the motion?
I don't think I can second now because I'm,
No, I don't think you
Okay.
can.
No, I would, yeah, I would want Julianne to do that.
I'll second.
Clarice?
Yep.
Thank you.
Then Steve, I guess you need, no, Steve, I don't. know who
Yeah,
calls it.
well, no, Julianne needs to call for the vote, and I abstain because of a conflict of interest.
so all in favor, say aye.
Aye, but everybody's muted, but we need to know who's voting how.
I'm so sorry. My phone just died and I was out of like the whole last, so I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, my dog too. I don't know exactly what we're voting on is right now.
Hey, Robbie, you should probably read that, your language again.
Yes, I'll read it. I'll abbreviate a little bit if that helps. Motion was made by Janice to support the agenda item to enter into the hotel motel tax intergovernmental agreement between the city and the CVB, with the condition that further information is gathered based on the agreement with the DMO prior to a final vote.
Are you gonna put a time frame on that though? What do we?
I don't know that you need a time frame on it right now, because
The goal is for you guys to do it as quickly as you can, right? Get satisfied as quickly
Yeah.
as you can, or not satisfied. But I don't think there's any
So-
benefit to putting time on it.
So what we're doing, Kara, is giving some voice of support to the concept and idea, which will be
Right.
helpful in this, at the council meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we're not voting. We haven't voted other than to say we're in support.
I think
We'll
that's,
take no vote.
I'm in agreement and support that. I think Mike is too. I can't speak for everybody else, so, but I'm good with that.
So Carter,
Sorry, I'm still here. Did you ask me something, Janice? You said,
I think we're taking the vote on the motion.
So
yeah, like I said, I'm supportive of it.
Okay, great.
They said we just need to, like I've said, we need more information, get all our ducks in a row so we can support it to our community and future folks that come into the queue and such as that we're consistent and we play ball with everybody the same way, and as such we go forward.
Great. Joyce?
I'm in support.
So I don't know if that's a quorum or not, to tell you the truth.
I believe that's 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 6. That's enough. That's 6. 6 out of 9.
So motion
Well,
carries.
Yes.
We worked really hard and I have a headache. And
I
we
do
still
too.
have to work
I
through
have a
this.
splitting migraine.
Now, Tom,
Thank you.
Tom, I'm
I'm
assuming
sorry
that
for the,
oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Steve.
I was gonna say thank you, and I'm sorry this came at such a rush. I hate it too.
I know you
All the
do.
vaccines that have gotten us to this, I mean, it's been a lot of this.
And Tom,
Well,
I'm
I-
assuming if this goes forward, it goes forward to the city council that they're making their own decisions as well. They're speaking amongst themselves. We could have an opportunity to get together, right, in the future and go back and forth. Since we've made our decision here, city council makes their decision, then we could come together, couldn't we? So there's no influence.
I
If we have-
suppose, but I mean, again, the process will be whatever the next steps are, depending on what the city council is and whatever input you guys have in that process then, right? Yeah, I mean, where it's typically best to get everybody together is when there's a presentation, right? Like if the attorney was making a presentation or whatever, that's when you do that kind of thing. everybody's hearing the same
And,
thing.
and I think probably once the lawyers all come out with the agreement that's going to be presented to the DMO, there could be a called joint meeting between the council and this board. Tom, would that be a feasible way to handle
Yeah, I
that?
think so.
So that everyone's hearing the same thing from the attorneys, and that would be for the all attorneys present could possibly, if we can get their schedules, be present. So you're hearing from everybody involved from a legal standpoint.
Yeah, I think if we're going to enter into, as representing the CHCVB, if we're going to enter in this agreement, and that, then I think we should be involved in all those meetings as possible moving forward.
I agree. So at 2 hours, we may have to make a motion to close this meeting. If somebody could do that, that would be great.
I'll take a motion. So whoever wants to make a motion, I'll write it down.
So moved.
Who said that?
Janice,
Janice.
Oh, Janice. Okay, Janice.
also known as Avery on this call.
I was
Is there a
wondering.
second? Is there a second?
Avery
Second
Martin.
that.
Wait.
Second
meeting
by
is
Clarice.
adjourned. Yes.
Third.
Thank you. Third from Carter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, guys.